Hey everybody, my name is Jay, and this is I Have a Samurai. And today we are going to be talking about the dreaded Azwel matchup. This is a matchup that I don't think that Amy necessarily fares all that well against, though you could say that about pretty much any character in the game. It's not because of anything character specific, it's just straightly because Azwel has incredibly powerful tools in every single one of his stances, and it becomes kind of an obstacle course that Amy has to traverse in order to lay down any kind of pressure. I don't think that I'm breaking any new ground when I say that when it comes to an idea to how to beat Azwel, it's heavily important that you understand what kinds of moves and what kinds of pressure, what kind of commitments you're able to make depending on what stance he's in, depending on what weapon he has, because that can greatly change how you're going to be playing the matchup. I'm going to be playing Amy on the right versus Sandman on the left. These are some online games, and there's a little bit of online-y stuff that you're going to be seeing, but I think the ideas that are being pronounced in these two games that I'm going to be showing are really the takeaway rather than what kind of like the score is going to be. So the first step when it comes to playing against Azwel is going to be to get in. Because it doesn't matter what stance Azwel is going to be in, he's going to have higher range than you. And then secondly is to figure out what stance he's in and what kind of pressure that you can perform against it. So getting in straight away is not going to be particularly difficult. Azwel is always going to be wanting to try and get a weapon out, and predominantly, just like you saw there, he's going to be going for a high, which isn't necessarily all that difficult to get in against when you're a character that can permanently tech crouch themselves. 6-6A, 6-6A plus B, all that kind of stuff can be pretty good against Azwel and the opening round gambit, so to speak, because 6-6A plus B isn't going to be punishable unless he has sword out, right? So he has axe out now, right? And so you'll see me pressing, well, quite a lot of buttons. I'm going to be totally comfortable trying to use the stage position in my advantage. That 4B wasn't necessarily all that great. And you can see, like, this has to do a little bit with the understanding I have about playing against Sandman, where I try to take a little bit of a micro step in order to get away from axe verticals and then immediately crouch to get away from Muscle Buster. This kind of thing will get totally blown up by 3A, but he doesn't tend to use a lot of 3A as compared to other Azwel players that I've fought against. But when it comes to axe, you're not looking at particularly heavy punishes on block, so I'm totally comfortable throwing in more commitment kind of stuff like a full 3BA more often than not, doing stuff like 4B on block, and just kind of like trying to pressure him as much as possible. So you see there that I get hit by the Muscle Buster, so obviously my plan of slight sidestep into duck low isn't going to be 100% successful. So I already have him in red, and I make that duck again, and I think it's a relatively easy duck to make on that Muscle Buster because he's right next to the wall, right? He's hit me with 1-3B, but I get a significantly higher punish if I'm correct about the Muscle Buster. Plus, it feels more like he'll want to Muscle Buster more than he'll want to 3B, right? Because again, I'm right next to the wall. It's not a heavy amount of damage, but you're not really going to get that with Amy, especially when you don't have roses like I do right now. You see that I drop the rest of the combos that I can try to go for additional pressure, but he GIs me instead. And now you see that he's in sword. So a lot of times when I'm playing against an Azwel player that's in sword, I'm doing a lot of tech crouches, because what he wants to do is AB, right? Now he's back in axe, so I'm okay with doing stuff like AMS, A, and a lot of stuff like that. So I'm willing to just take that Muscle Buster on the ground so that I can potentially soul charge or sidestep out of situations like this. But he ends up catching me with the disco kicks at the end, which is a pretty good move. It's not really something that I'm all that successful with blocking, and Amy doesn't really get a strong block either. I kind of make a mistake there not 100% pressing in right at the beginning, which allowed him to get sword. So now he's in axe again. So I'm going to be pressing as much as I can. I'm more comfortable with doing stuff like 3B. I'm trying to catch him committing to a sidestep, and you see that I'm just trying to hit him as much as possible. I'm trying to keep him from being able to play any sort of game. The combo that I got there off of the guard crush, even though it ended up leading to a correct reset, which I then had to hit him again after that reset, is really not all that great, but Amy's not exactly the best when it comes to post guard crush combos. So he's in spear here. I'm not really punishing that uppercut all that well. I end up getting the AK, which is a little bit better than what I was getting before, but for some reason, in this set specifically, I wasn't really prepared to punish that virtually ever, which is a mistake. So one thing, and I'm sure everybody here already knows it, but I can't stress it enough, one thing that a lot of people don't do against Azwel, which you absolutely need to do, is punish as hard as you can when he does something that's massively unsafe. Sword AB is massively unsafe. If you are getting something like AA or BB when he does a sword AB on block, there's just no way that you're going to be winning the matchup. It's the most important thing when it comes to playing against Azwel. So I end up getting the full 3BA 4BB combo, and even that is not necessarily 100% optimal. I have Red Rose, so technically the most optimal one would be 666BA 4BB. The reason why I do 3BA is because I'm not necessarily all that great at juggling the punishes that I have in my head, so I end up doing a 3BA just on reaction to Sword AB every time because I can't remember if I had Red Rose or not until I've already done the move, if that makes sense. I have a tough time confirming that kind of thing. So the next is going to be trying to get in. So he's trying to challenge me with Axe 6B, which does end up hitting me quite a lot. So I get pretty lucky with this Soul Charge because it pushes him down onto the ground. And I try to get him to think about low parry K with the low parry A. It didn't end up working, but I ended up getting that sidestep. And if you think about it, it wasn't necessarily a great idea to go for that vertical because the last time he was in that situation, he did the disco kicks and ended up hitting me. So I think he gave me a little bit too much credit in that situation. So 6BB, not necessarily all that great of a punish, but I wanted to, again, try to use AMS pressure to potentially deal with... He's really good at punishing stuff that people don't even necessarily see. This is one of the reasons why I like playing against Sandman, is because he doesn't let me get away with a lot of Amy stuff that a lot of other people do, because he does play Amy, so a lot of like these holes that I put in my pressure that I normally get to cheat away from, he ends up catching me for it. So he ended up whiffing a punish, and I tried to put on as much pressure and guard damage as I could before the inevitable loss of the round. So I'm in kind of a bad situation here until I realize that I got the hit and he doesn't have a weapon out yet. It forces him to use a Soul Charge right off the bat, so I'm hoping that I can kind of like maintain a certain level of momentum and allow his Soul Charges not to get hit, not to be very successful against me. This is something that a lot of Azwel players do. This is a tick that I've noticed, that whenever they get that guard crush, and they're in the axe stance, they almost always go for a mid. It's actually not very often that people will just automatically go for a muscle buster. So I find that mid parry in that situation is pretty successful on Sandman and on other Azwel players. So now I'm trying to go in against him, and so did you notice that he used Sword BB right there? He didn't use Sword AB. One of the things that I'm trying to demonstrate in this set is that when he's in Sword, I'm using as many tech crouches as I can, 4A, 3A, this kind of stuff, to get away from the Sword AB. And I think this is really important because, as you saw, Sandman is now going to Sword BB, which is significantly less of a benefit than Sword AB would be, but Sword AB has just been unsuccessful so far. So this is kind of a big deal to me. This means that I'm being able to condition my opponent to use a move that's suboptimal. So I'm going to be getting hit by a lot less damage, giving him a lot less opportunities to go for axe mix-ups. So again, the kind of idea that I'm trying to get at is when he's in Sword, lots of tech crouches. When he's in axe, just as much pressure as possible and never hesitate to press a button. Because the second that I allow a character that has better mix-ups than me do those mix-ups, we're in bad news. So now I'm trying to use the stage positioning again. And I'm going through my stance transitions. So now he has Sword. He ended up catching me there. This is something that I've noticed, that whenever he gets me with that Sword series, he immediately goes into Sword AA, and I always get hit by it. I always want to try and GI or reverse ledge or something rather than just ducking. I think eventually in the end of the set, I ended up starting to duck or at least just block it, but I don't know, for some reason that Sword AA follow-up after that series of hits just really catches me off guard. So I'm trying to be very hesitant and trying to be very awkward, but also constantly using tech crouches yet again. So I'm inevitably going to be getting hit by one of those 3Bs because I've been ducking so often, and he ends up catching me here, because again, I'm hesitating. I'm not having an opportunity to press a button, and he ends up hitting me with that. It was kind of like a pretty outlandish gambit to go for 6A plus B there. It's not really going to hit a lot of options. So now he has Sword again. I'm once again going to be trying to like try to use the stage positioning that I've had. Unfortunately, that AMSB was supposed to be a 4-6B for the punish, but what can you do? So now I'm just trying to like block it out when it comes to his soul charge. See, once again, he hits me with the disco kicks. If he keeps doing that, it's gonna be the hell for me. He ends up using a lot of 6B in those kinds of situations to try and catch me mashing, which then allows for me to get an opportunity to either sidestep or do a 4B. Here I use a 4BB because he's in axe, so he's not going to be able to punish it, and I go into an aggressive soul charge, again trying to use the stage positioning to my advantage. I'm kind of lucky that I didn't just get that I didn't just straight up lose. At that one series, but also I made a really big mistake here in punishing with 4-6B. I'm pretty sure 6-6-BA 4BB, because I had Red Rose, would have won me the round when I blocked that Muscle Buster. But it's difficult to juggle all those punishes. It's one of the hardest things about playing Amy, in my opinion. And so now I'm just trying to pressure him, and once again, he goes for a high, and I'm throwing out tech crouches because he's in sword. That's kind of the whole idea here. He's in sword once again, and I immediately go for lows, which forces him to go for sword BB. He guesses wrong about the AMS pressure. I continue my pressure as much as I can, constantly throwing in AMSs. Here's another tech crouch once again, and I'm just trying to plague him with a lot of tech crouches when he's in sword, right? And I'm also not really doing anything that's that easily seen to be punished from like a standing position, right? So now he's in sword. I always get hit by that follow-up. But yeah, it's a lot of tech crouches, a lot of AMS pressure when he's in sword to force him to try and take a bet. I'm still not punishing that sword shield, or that spear shield move all that well. Something that I have to get better at. Amy can punish with 6BB when he does the Power of Truth. I'm trying to catch him, and once again, he's going for a high, and so I'm trying to tech crouch myself. Now he wants to do axe stuff, so I'm just pressing a whole bunch of buttons, and then I end up getting the round with a ring out. And so that's kind of the idea that I have about playing against Azwel as it stands right now. Unfortunately, I'm not actually all that good at maintaining this level of a difference in how I'm going to play depending on the Azwel's stances. Unless I was streaming this on my stream when we were playing this, and the only way that I could keep up with which stance he was in was literally just saying aloud what stance he was in the entire time that he was in that stance. So the entire time I'm like, he's an axe, he's an axe, he's in sword, he's in sword. And so that was really the only way that I could keep up with that sort of thing. I really wish there was a stronger indicator as to which stance he was in, because it really matters a lot. Suddenly, you know, when he's an axe, I have to not care about the kind of like negatives that I'm putting myself at when I'm attacking. And when he's in sword, it's really important that I know that is the case. Because against axe, I have to duck low all the time. Against sword, I don't have to duck low at all. It's important to know these kinds of things. So the kind of style and the kind of idea that I have with this character so far is you have to get in all the time. Shouldn't be all that hard, especially if he doesn't have a weapon. Lots of tech crouches when he's in sword. When he's an axe, you do a lot of pressure in general and never let up with pressing buttons. Against spear, not 100% about that yet. I know he has that parry, which you obviously always have to worry about, and just like sword AB and some of the other things that Azwel has, it's massively unsafe and you have to take advantage of that. But I'm not 100% sure if there's anything specific that I can put out there when it comes to dealing with Azwel's spear. But those are the matches that I have for now, and let me know what you guys think about this matchup, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, thanks very much.